Hello, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and please check out my channel for other World updates. So the last update about Twist of Fate, Ranbir got angry with his family because they ate Prachi, and Ranbir finally bailed Prachi from prison. Then Ranbir also mistakes Shahana as the pregnant woman instead of Prachi. Let's continue. Ria asks Prachi what does she want and says you don't want to live with Ranbir and you are not letting me live with him. She asks what do you want? Prachi says everyone knows what you wanted to do and says you shouldn't have called the police. Ria says you are stolen and what do you think, that I will let you go? Prachi says you knew what I wanted and says you have ruined the family respect. Ria says I just wanted my win and says I knew what you wanted to steal and says what do you think, that I will hand over my future in your hand and got you arrested. Prachi says I am standing in front of you and this is my win. Ranbir bailed me out. Prachi says Ranbir was going out of India for an important work, but just as he came to know about my arrest, he came back and bailed me out as he loves me still and his heart beats for me still. Ria says Ranbir freed you out due to the family respect and he doesn't love you. He was just fulfilling his duty. She says you are thrown out of his heart and you will be out from his life too. Ria says tomorrow is my first lorry festival and asks her to see Ranbir becoming us again. She asks her to accept the truth that Ranbir is just mine and advises her to leave before lorry and she should not say that she did not want her. She goes. Prachi keeps her hand on her tummy and asks her baby not to get angry. Prachi says to the baby that your father got so much happy thinking that Shahana is pregnant and says how will he be happy if he knows about you? She says she thought to tell him the truth and record how my parents separated. She says I couldn't tell Ranbir about his life's biggest happiness and says sorry. Ranbir is walking on the road and thinking about Prachi and his moment, her bitter words, etc. A song plays in the background. He thinks that Prachi doesn't let him take care of her. He thinks that he is getting angry on Prachi, but he cannot get angry on her. He thinks that why can't she be good to him as she is staying in the house. A guy is sleeping there gets up and asks if he is mad. Ranbir asks what? The guy says I am sleeping here as my wife threw me out from the house. He asks him not to say sorry to his wife and says if you say sorry once, then you have to say sorry always. Ranbir says if you have done a mistake, then you have to say sorry. The guy says don't make it as a habit. He says saying sorry means surrendering to her. Ranbir smiles. The guy asks Ranbir if he is the guy who drowned in love as he refused to drink wine. He says more than anger, you love her. Ranbir says very interesting. The guy says your love story is interesting too. Ranbir says there is nothing to say now. The guy asks him to share his love story and get some advice. Ranbir says this story started in college and tells the guy everything. He says there is complication in my life. The guy says if you love your chick, then show her some attitude. Make her jealous, then she will come back to you. He says I am saying this with experience. Ranbir smiles. Ranbir comes back home. He is about to fall. Prachi holds him. A song plays in the background. They look at each other. He recalls his words and pretends to be upset with her and says I don't want your help. Prachi says I was not helping you and I haven't saved you. Ranbir says you wanted to see me falling down and you wanted to ruin my life. He claps and says you are doing well for what you have done. Do whatever you like and I will do what you like too. Prachi looks at him as their hand touches each other. Prachi gets emotional. A song plays in the background. Prachi comes to her room and asks what is happening to me. She says why am I feeling this? She says she shall not get affected and she shall not cry for him, being the daughter of a strong woman. She recalls Sushma's words and talks to Ranbir's picture that she has lost so much for him. She says I have left my family and my people and you left me too. Ranbir comes to the kitchen and asks Shahana how is she? Shahana nods yes. He asks do you want to talk to me? Shahana says you might not like it. Ranbir says think me as your friend and tell me whatever is going on in your mind. Shahana recalls Prachi's words. Ranbir asks Shahana not to think much and says we are friends and says I promise I will understand everything. Shahana says actually I wanted to talk to you about the baby. Prachi says whenever I think about telling you about the baby, I see the past and whatever you have done with me. You had claimed to love me, but you did not care for me. Prachi says to Ranbir's photo that you have ruined our family and you broke it before it completed. She says you don't have love and concern for me and says she shall not have love, sympathy and hope from him now, so she shall not be upset. Shahana says to Ranbir that you have seen the world more than me and you might understand. Ranbir says that Shahana should be proud to be a mother and says don't think about the world. He says a baby can come in this world with her mother's word. He says he will help her. Shahana says I don't need your help, but just listen to me. She says I will be in guilt if I don't tell you about this baby and says you are the only one who shall know about this baby. Shahana tells Ranbir that he shall know about the baby's truth. Ranbir asks her to talk to Prachi once and asks if she has told you not to tell me about this baby, then don't tell me, but I will help you and tell me once about the baby's father. I will break his legs or I will fall on his feet to convince him. Shahana cries. Ranbir says I understand why you are crying as due to your pregnancy. You are feeling extreme. He says Prachi is not pregnant and says by chance if she get pregnant, then he says leave it. Shahana says I want to tell you this baby's truth and who his father is, but Prachi doesn't want me to tell you the truth. Shahana says she thinks extreme and that is why she doesn't think that his father shall know. Ranbir asks what does she want and says if you think that his father is not a good guy, then you can move on, but if he needs a second chance, then give him a second chance and start afresh with him. He asks her to tell him what is her decision and goes. Shahana comes to Prachi and wipes her tears. Prachi asks what happened. Did anyone tell you anything? Shahana says it is Ranbir. Prachi says I will not leave him and she is about to go out. Shahana says forgive him and tell him that he is still the same. He gets happy in a small thing. He has same dreams and even now he loves kids. Shahana says Ranbir is so happy for me and he is ready to bend down for me and asks her to think what he can do for her. Prachi says he called me characterless and asks if she knows what it means and says he used to claim that he loves me and says he couldn't be good in the relationship. Shahana says Ranbir deserves to know about the baby and asks Prachi to tell him the truth. Prachi says I will tell him, but come with me. Shahana says I am really happy for you. Prachi takes Shahana to Ranbir's room and knocks on the door. She asks her to answer him when he asks who is the baby's father and says he will not believe me. She says he saw me with Siddharth and he broke off with me. She says I will break my relationship with you. Ranbir opens the door and asks if everything is fine. Prachi asks if I shall tell him. Shahana gets tensed and keeps her hand on her ears. Ranbir asks, are you alright? Prachi says Shahana wanted to say that she can live her life and she can give a good upbringing to the baby without his father's support. She is capable to raise her baby on her own. Shahana says I am getting sleep and she goes. Ranbir goes to the room and closes the door. Rhea smiles seeing him closing the door. Ranbir asks himself to think of what Prachi wants and thinks maybe this is love and it means pain. The next morning, Rhea greets Pallavi happy Lori. She recalls Grandma's plan to unite Ranbir and Prachi. Aliyah asks why is she happy. Pallavi says it is Rhea's first Lori. Rhea says yes, but there is something else too. She says I was really upset when Ranbir brought Prachi back home, but later I realized that whatever he did is for the family's respect. She says later in the night, she saw Ranbir closing the door on Prachi's face and it is nothing less than a slap for Prachi. Aliyah says Prachi will behave as if nothing happened. Prachi comes there. Pallavi says the lorry will be happy memory for her. Aliyah praises Pallavi for shopping so much for her only daughter-in-law. She asks Pallavi about their family's customs. Prachi wishes happy Lori to Vikram and calls him dad. She bends down to touch his feet. Pallavi looks at Vikram angrily. Vikram wishes Prachi happy Lori reluctantly and keeps his hand on her head, blessing her for happiness. Prachi smiles. Grandma also smiles. Prachi comes to Grandma and wishes her happy Lori. Grandma blesses her. Prachi asks for Pallavi's blessings. Vikram asks Pallavi to wish Prachi. Prachi says happy Lori, God bless you. Prachi then wishes Aliyah and Rhea. She sits to have food on the dining table. Ranbir also sits. Rhea asks when he will wish her. Ranbir says he had a fight with someone in the night and he is not in a good wish. Prachi recalls a fight with Ranbir. Rhea asks with whom he had a fight. He says with someone dear to me and says I don't know if I shall give importance to her or not. Rhea says why to give importance to such person. Ranbir says you are right and apologizes to everyone. He says I will not trouble anyone for any reasons and I will do whatever they want. Rhea says we all have forgiven you. Ranbir thanks her and says you are so sweet and says I have decided to stay away from bitter people, especially today on Lori Day. Rhea goes behind him and asks him to come early today. She asks him to come soon and says we shall call him again and again. Ranbir says, I will come if you call me again and again. He says you care for me so much. I promise that I will come soon, and decided not to break my promises. Prachi recalls his words. Ranbir says, bye Ria, have a good day. Grandma goes to Shahana's room and sees her crying. She asks, why didn't you stay for breakfast? Shahana says, I couldn't see Prachi and Ranbir being away from each other. Grandma says, where there is love, there is argument too. Shahana says they fight a lot, there is no love. Grandma says they have so much love. Shahana says, but they couldn't see the love between them. Grandma says they will see it soon. Shahana says, last night, so much happened, and says there was tension and I was scared. Grandma says they will get rid of hatred and fight themselves. She says Prachi is water and Ranbir is milk, and says the fire is the anger between them. She says when milk boils, it falls on fire, and says let it boil and set off the fire. She says they will not let anyone separate them. Shahana asks Grandma. Prachi comes there. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel for more updates. Thank you.